Welcome back guys, this is Molton. For today I've picked out a brilliant attacking game from this year's European Championships. It features a trendy French variation which has been swung heavily in Black's favour recently, so let's take a look. The game started e4, e6, the French defense. White plays knight c3, knight f6, e5, the Steinitz variation. f4, c5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop e3. So far everything's fairly normal. Black plays bishop e7, it's a variation of the French. White goes queen d2, castles. Here white needs to remember not to casually castle queenside, since this runs into the very nasty move pawn to c4, closing up the center and setting up a very easy queenside attack with the moves b5, b4. And white's break on the king side with pawn to f5 is not nearly as potent as black's attack, and simply the queenside attack is going to be too quick and too strong. Therefore white should take on c5. And here the normal recaptures are with the bishop or with the knight, but black goes for the move queen to a5, white castles queenside, and here instead of taking the pawn immediately back, black goes for a sacrifice of the pawn to open up lines on the queen side with the move pawn to b6. Very interesting option, which if you put into the engine will spit out that white's simply better, but in practice it's shown that black is scoring very, very well. And it goes to show that in chess, having a easy to play position is just as important as whatever the computer is evaluating it to be. Here white goes bishop to b5, and black plays the move knight to b4. The idea being that after white kicks this knight with the move pawn to a3, black will simply play the move pawn takes c5, keeping the knight hanging on the b4 square, and in most cases black will intend to sacrifice this knight in order to get some open play on the queen side. Now here everyone as white is taking the knight on d7 and taking the knight on b4, keeping the extra piece. However, the resulting positions, black has a lot of compensation and they're just very fun to play as black. Therefore I don't suggest white does this and instead goes for the second option here, which is king to b1, which I think gives white the better chances. For example, if black plays the move knight to b6 here, as was played in one game, white has a very strong reply in the move pawn to f5. I believe the resulting tactics are all in white's favor from here on in. Therefore, after king b1, I suggest black plays the move rook to b8 instead. And here we reach a forcing sequence from both sides, where white should take our knight on b4, we can take back. And the best move for white here is to play knight takes d5, since bishop takes d7 is well met by pawn takes c3, opening up the line of attack from the rook along the b file. Therefore knight takes d5, we take back since our bishop on e7 was being attacked. White should take the knight on d7, we can take back, and white should go for the endgame with queen takes d5, queen takes d5, rook takes d5. Black can play bishop c6, white should follow rook a5, and here white is a pawn up, but black has the two bishops and a very active position, although white's a pawn is particularly weak. Rook f to c8, threatening bishop e4 ideas, possibly b3, so white can play b3 to stop all this. And let's say after bishop e4, rook c1. Here I believe black has some compensation, but whether it's a position where I would want to play black is relatively unclear, since I believe that white is definitely in no danger at all of losing this position, and if anything he has the better winning chances. So it'll be interesting to see if more people start trying this particular variation against black's opening choice in the future. Okay, so let's go back to the game. Here instead white played the move bishop takes d7, we took back, and white simply took the knight. Black takes back, and then played knight b1. So white is a piece up in this position, however black has the bishop pair and open c and potential to march the b and a pawns up the board for an attack. Black plays the move rook f to c8. Knight d4 makes sense, defending the c2 pawn as well as protecting against b3 pushes. Black plays queen to a1, and I've noticed that this is a very simple but very effective and hard to counter plan from black, where he just puts the queen on a1 or a2 and then marches the queenside pawn up the board with a5, a4, a3, and in the meantime it's really up to white to find a way to stop this. White goes queen to d3, but black continues, just a5. The best move in this position is already to start running with the king with the move king to d2, and for example after a4 to play king e2, and after queen takes b2 we reach a somewhat unclear position, but one where I would definitely take black in every single case, because practically it's a much easier position for black to play because white is the one under pressure. Instead, white tried a logical move to try and create counterplay on the king side with the move pawn to f5, but this is already a serious mistake and one which gives black a clear advantage. Black simply takes the pawn, and white tries for the move pawn to e6. I mean, if he's not going to run with the king, then he needs to create some serious counterplay on the king side. However, his pawns are simply not advanced fast enough, and here he's trying to make something happen with the f and e pawn. Black simply takes it, and white tries knight takes f5, sacrificing the knight in order to take on d5. Black took, and here white tries queen takes d5, king h8, queen takes d7, but after the move bishop to f6, black is already clearly winning. Since the attack on the b2 pawn can't easily be stopped, black also has ideas of rook d8 in a lot of positions. Rook d4 is played. Black continues the attack here with the move pawn to b3, and white is seriously defenseless here, since after the move pawn to c3 to block the c-file, black just continues with the move pawn to a4, and you can see how dangerous this plan is if white is unable to create any serious counterplay on the king side, and he's going to leave the king on c1. Now white tried to play queen f7 to answer the threat of a3 with queen takes b3. However, funnily enough, we don't have to take on b2 or do anything at all like that. Black simply pushes the pawn, and this is a very funny variation I find, since black simply marches the a pawn up the board and pushes it straight to a2, and doesn't seem like there's anything white can do about it. The game continued queen to c2, and here Romain has many wins for black, but he chooses one which is particularly nice, and he finishes the game with the move rook takes c3. Spectacular finish, and after which white threw in the towel. The idea being we utilize this pin of the queen along the c-file, as well as the pin of the knight on the b-file. So for example, if pawn takes, black will simply take on b1, and after taking we'll simply take on c3, and the white king will have to go to d1, and here black is a clearly winning position. For example, one move might be rook to a1, winning the queen and potentially the rook on h1 as well. An excellent attacking game by Romain. With a knight sacrifice, I expect to gain a lot more popularity in the near future. I hope you all enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you on the next one.